There we go. Focus on medical terminologies. It actually happens to be our week 10 discussion question. So the week 10 discussion question says, you've learned several terms starting with arthro in chapter 13, and then goes through some of those terms, right? Looking at the prefixes and the suffixes. But ultimately, it's asking you, does knowing the medical terminology help you understand the procedure better? So kind of think about that. Why would it help you? Does it inhibit you in any way to know medical terminology better? So let's spend just a couple minutes on medical terminology. Right? So medical terms are actually built from different word parts, and that's one of the things that makes it easier that when you recognize medical terminology, you can break down a word that maybe you haven't seen before, but you know the word parts. You can kind of get an idea as to, okay, I understand at least where this is, what body part this might be or what body system. I'm understanding we're talking about an inflammation or we're talking about pain because you're recognizing those different suffixes or prefixes. So for example, cardiogram, the word root will be cardi. We add the O whenever we're connecting consonants and whatnot. So this would be the cardio meaning heart, and gram meaning a record of. So you'd be able to say that, oh, okay, this then is measuring, creating a record of the heart. We also have the pericardium. So we already know cardio is heart. So what are we talking about? Peri, that means around. You also see this in things like perinatal, right? So perinatal would mean around the time of delivery. You could have, oh my goodness, there's so many different things that you could even have perioperative, right? They use it there too. That means around the time of the operative session. So it could be before or after or during. Okay, carditis. So carditis is, again, the cardio, the heart, itis being inflammation. So we're familiar with a lot of itises, right? I think everybody is familiar with some of the major ones like arthritis. You can have otitis, right? Inflammation of your ear that's actually really painful. You could have inflammation of just about anything. So really understanding the inflammations, if you know the word roots, you know what body part you're talking about or what body system, and you can add that additional component. So again, the final one on the slide is cardiomyopathy. This is just showing how you can put different things together. So myo meaning muscle. So you have, again, your cardio, your muscle, and then pathy meaning disease. So path is really just kind of looking at like a pathologist study of disease, right? So putting all those pieces together, you can figure out like what's actually intended. So right up there with knowing medical terminology, it's also important to know how to pronounce it. One of the things that when you go into whether you're going to be working in a physician's office and speaking with physicians or other clinicians about medical terms, very important that you're able to speak the language because that's part of communicating and connecting with our clinical counterparts. So this right here is just kind of a fun exercise looking at how are you doing with your pronunciations. It's something you want to work on. Pronunciation in especially a recording format, a little bit challenging to do. But this one is actually by some professionals, right? How is it that they pronounce it? These are non-clinical folks, but why don't you try your hand at it first? So this one, for example, this guy's got a blown right pupil. Actually, before I read the whole thing, I'm going to go ahead and pause for a moment. Let's see, go ahead and try it yourself. So pause the recording. Okay, did you try it yourself? Did you see how well you did? Let me try. This guy's got a blown right pupil, an endo-occipital dislocation, open book pelvis, a large open abdominal wound, a sucking chest wound, 7 broken ribs. Now we're going to hear how the Grey's Anatomy folks do this one.
Comminuted? Is that a word? Wow, that's a good one. This is a good one.
This guy's got a blown right pupil and an endo-occipital.
Oh. And an occipital dislocation. I think it's occipital.
This guy's got a blown right pupil and an endo-occipital dislocation, open book pelvis, a large open abdominal wound.
Oh, you gotta go over this one. Go over this one. A large open.
A sucking chest wound.
A sucking chest wound with 7 broken ribs.
According to this card, this guy's got a blown right pupil and an endo-occipital dislocation, open book pelvis, large open abdominal wound. Jeez. Sucking chest wound with 7 broken ribs.
All right, well, how did you do? Anywhere close? I think it's sometimes validating to see that even professionals struggle with this, and these individuals have coaches. Okay, let's try a next one. We have just a few of these. So this next one, go ahead and pause and try this one yourself before I go for it. Okay, so this one, enlarge the incision with a dissecting instrument and use a stapler to create the anastomosis. Have any trouble with that last word? I think that's one that trips up a lot of people. In fact, let's hear how the professionals once again attempt this one. Oops.
Create?
Yeah.
A stapler to create, I can't read very well.
Stapler to create the
Yes, to create the anastomosis.
anastomosis.
Enlarge the incision with a dissecting instrument and use a stapler to create the anastomosis.
I used to get anastomosis wrong all the time.
Enlarge the incision with a dissecting instrument and use a stapler to create the anastomosis.
Good.
Okay. I got a post.
Okay, so again, anastomosis, that can be a tricky one for a lot of people. But as you can imagine, when you're having a conversation with someone who's clinical and you're trying to communicate the same thing, it's very important for that comprehension component, to make sure that, you know, whether we're doing something like even a verbal query or something like that, that we're using the correct terminology, because sometimes even the slightest change could actually be talking about something else. All right, let's try this one. So go ahead and try this one yourself, and then I will. Okay, so for this one, I've got a post-op ortho patient on DVT prophylaxis with a subdural hematoma. This one, you could use your dramatic flair. Derek, she's got a blown pupil. Okay, clearly I'm not a drama person. Let's try this one out, and here we go.
I got a post-op ortho patient on DVT
Prophylaxis
prophylaxis.
with a subdural hematoma.
I've got a post-op ortho patient on DVT prophylaxis.
I've got a post-op ortho patient on DVT prophylaxis with a subdural hematoma.
Derek.
Derek, she's blown a pupil.
I've got a post-op ortho patient on DVT prophylaxis with a subdural hematoma. Derek, she's got a blown pupil.
15-year-old with GSW to the thigh.
Oops, going too far there. Okay, well, let's try this next one, and this is actually our final one for this one. So try this one out. I think we just heard him launch into this, but I'm sure that you already had this one anyway. So let's go ahead and try this one. And pause and take your turn. Okay, a 15-year-old with GSW to the thigh with comminuted femur fracture, lacerations with superficial femoral artery. Let's see how they did with our Grey's Anatomy cast.
With GSW to the thigh
With commuted
with
Comminuted femur fracture.
lacerations with superficial
lacerations with
Lacerations with superficial femoral artery.
There again. 15-year-old GSW with thigh.
15-year-old with GSW to the thigh with comminuted femur fracture, lacerations with superficial femoral artery.
15-year-old GSW to the thigh with comminuted femur fracture, lacerations with superficial femoral artery. Ha!
That's it.
We did it.
Woo! What do I win?
Okay, well, I suppose what we get out of that is validation that we're not the only ones that may struggle with it. Okay, so let's jump right back into this. So again, week 10, we're going to have a discussion question on medical terminology, but even beyond that, understanding the different word parts, how is that going to serve you? Well, I think we probably already laid those foundations. It's just going to give you a broader understanding of what might be that body system or the issue with it. It takes you a little bit further, and it can actually support you in being able to code something because you're going to kind of know what body system to even go for. So let's take a look now.